Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan, and here, Monday through Friday, we do a little bit of all things creepy. Now today we are going to be reading scary stories that were sent in to me that all have to do with mimics. And tomorrow we are going to do a compilation of mimic encounters that I have caught on camera. And I was thinking about, I'll probably do it next week because I'm filming everything for the week right now, but taking videos online of supposed mimics and talking about them, talking about why I think they're real, why I think they're not. But anyways, today we are going to be reading some scary stories involving mimics. Like I said, if you guys have any stories of any topic from anywhere in the world that you would like to send to me, please check out the description below because that email address will be there along with my other social media links. So let's get into these stories. Turn on a light. Mimics are scary. Before we get into it, maybe I should tell you what a mimic is. A mimic is a certain entity. They go by many different names, but I call them mimics because that's what they do. A mimic will have a sole purpose of either replacing you or the person is pretending to being for whatever reason. They're really good at impersonating people, but they get details of it off. So normally you will not see their face or like details of their hands and things because they can't get that quite right. Now, mimics are not the same as doppelgangers. A doppelganger is a living, breathing human being that looks like you. We all have doppelgangers. They're people. This is different. I just don't want you guys to like see someone out on the street that looks like you and walk up to them and be like, witch, or whatever, you know? Let's get started on these stories. Watching your videos can really dig up some old memories of some encounters, and it made me think about a very recent one that I had with what I believe was a mimic. If you do end up sharing my story, please keep me anonymous. Just to let you know about the kind of area that I live in, my mic's not plugged in. My mic is not... My mic. Did that drastically change the sound? I'm gonna restart the story. Watching your videos can really dig up some old memories of some encounters and made me think about a very recent one I had with what I believe was a mimic. If you do end up sharing my story, I would like to remain anonymous. Just to let you know about the kind of area that I live in, I am right on the edge of town, but my house backs onto a small river which is surrounded by trees and other wildlife. The first encounter that I remember happening was around 3 years ago. My dad had just left the house to go get a few things from the supermarket, so I was alone. I was sitting on my bed watching YouTube when I heard what sounded like someone tapping on the window right behind me. At first, I thought it was just a tree branch swaying in the wind, but then I got this horrible feeling of dread washing over me. As soon as that happened, I froze. It felt like something was pushing me to look back to see what it was, but I just couldn't. I kept my eyes glued to my phone and didn't move until my dad got back. As soon as he got home, I ran to the living room and didn't go back to my room for the rest of the day. The second encounter that I remember is one of two that makes me think this is a mimic. Again, my dad had left me home alone when he went out to do something. This was around a year or two after the previous encounter, and I had completely forgotten about it. Again, I was lying on my bed with my back facing the window when I heard something. This time, I could hear what sounded like my dad right by the window, whispering the nickname he's called me since I was little. I knew that whatever was out there was not my dad, considering I had just seen him drive away. I put my blanket over my head and didn't move until I couldn't hear the whisper anymore. The next encounter happened very recently, I think a month or so ago at most. I had been inside all day and decided to go on a walk by the river just to get some fresh air. I walked for around maybe 10 minutes one way and then turned around to walk back to my house. On the way back to my house, I saw what looked like my dad just off the side of the path in front of me. It was far enough away that I couldn't tell for sure if it was my dad or not, but I knew it couldn't be. My dad hates going to the river, and that thing was right next to the water. What was also weird about it was that it was positioned up against a tree, kind of like one of those hide-and-seek dolls. I think that's what they're called. Like before, I knew this wasn't my dad. I was going to take a photo of it just to make sure, but when I looked down to get my phone out of my pocket, it vanished. As soon as I looked back up, not even a second later, it was gone. I was too paranoid to walk past that spot and ended up just sprinting home the long way. Do you know if this could actually be a mimic, or if these incidents are even related? Mimic or not, do you know about anything that I could do to stop this? It's really freaking me out and I still can't go back to the river alone. So, your location especially, it could be a lot of things. The unfortunate thing with mimics, and I'll say this here and I won't keep repeating myself because you guys will get bored with that, but Most supernatural things do possess the ability to mimic, and they do it often, but mimics have sort of specialized in it, and that's like the only thing they do to get their endgame goal. So that makes it a little bit hard to determine if something you're dealing with is a mimic or if it's just something else, and you usually have to wait and see if it progresses, if the way it's pretending to be someone is getting better, if they're getting more details of the person. Because by the time I was seeing my final glimpses of the mimic that was pretending to be my husband, I was starting to see a side face profile, which is something they normally don't show because they can't get it right. But this thing was starting to get his face right. So the more instances you have, the more you know. But I mean, we really don't want to keep something around that's terrifying us, so most people will try to get rid of it prior. Now, I do think that you should go ahead and start trying to get rid of it, but if regular banishments and cleansings, which is what I think you should try, don't work, then we have to look at the fact that this could be a mimic, especially if the looks and sounds are improving and becoming more uncanny. Would uncanny be the right word? I don't know, but more like that person. So always first, try cleansings, try banishments, try ignoring, and if things persist, then look into what else it could be. Because like I said, with your location, it could be many things. Alright, next story. I'm not sure if you'll see this, but I wanted to share an experience that I've dealt with when I was growing up. I lived in an old house that was made in 1990 from what I was told. I hated being alone in a room, even if my mom and our 2 dogs were in the other room. I felt like I was always being watched. Things would be knocked to the ground like my dolls and plushies, or a painting from where my mom displayed it on top of my dresser. The room I felt so disturbed by was the guest room. That was across from my bedroom. It was a beautiful room, but somehow felt off being in there. It had a patio separate from the other one that we had, and I'd go swimming and feel myself being watched. My mom loves taking pictures of me swimming and blogs it to her friends, so I thought maybe she was watching me. So I squinted to see her in the afternoon sunlight, but she's nowhere. What I do see is a dark figure in the guest room window. I wave, but I see the curtain shift and then nothing. I went inside to look for her and asked her why she was in the guest room with the lights off. She looked up from the book she was reading and gave me a questionable look. I wasn't in the guest room. I've been reading my book all afternoon. That scared me to hear, but at times I would hear footsteps on the roof as well. Thinking maybe my mom hired someone to do our roof, I'd make a funny remark. The workers you hired are so loud up there, I didn't even get to be woken up by my alarm. My mom would reply with, "What workers? I didn't hire anyone." I would start freaking out about how often it would happen, and my mom started to worry and look in the attic, which is very flimsy, and any weight that would cause someone to fall through. When I'm doing my homework, I feel someone touch my back, but I'd be alone. I'd be home alone as my mom would take her morning walk with her dogs and hear her voice calling my name. I'd call out and there'd be no answer. I'd look for her and she wouldn't be home. This happened frequently, also when my mom was getting nervous on what was happening. Both dogs would be looking at a specific chair that we had and wag their tails and stare as if someone was sitting there. My friends say it's a mimic or a ghost. We refuse to acknowledge it, but I still have no clue what it was. All I know was I felt relieved when we moved. As much as I loved that house, it freaked out my family. There wasn't an explanation for the unusual situations we experienced. So that's one I definitely don't think was a mimic. I think it was just a house spirit or a poltergeist. That's more so giving house spirit, just trying to get you guys to acknowledge it. Especially if it didn't follow you. That would make the most sense to me. So yeah, I should have put this disclaimer at the beginning. All of these might not be mimic stories. I literally typed in mimic in my email search bar and I grabbed a few stories. So we are deciphering together which one could be a mimic and which one could not be. And I think it's important for you guys to hear stories that, it's is this a mimic? And then I don't think it is, because I feel like it's going to be less scary if you guys experience this stuff. Anyways, next story. I've been watching your TikTok for a long time now and wanted to submit this story regarding the home that I'm living in. While typing this, my phone freezes or suddenly throws up an error message, but finally I got it typed out. Sorry for any errors in advance. Back in March, my boyfriend and I began renting a new home. We toured the house on our own and then toured it a second time with the landlord and decided it was the right decision. Now I work night shift and had worked the night before we were planning to deep clean the new house before moving in. Due to this, when I got off from work, I brought a load of cleaning supplies and went to drop it off at the new house. I say new due to it being new to us, but the house was built in the 1940s. As I entered the house to put my cleaning supplies inside, I was overwhelmed with a feeling of "you're not supposed to be here." The entire house felt eerily quiet and the vibes were completely off. I felt unwelcome in this home and I decided that I needed to leave when everything in my body was yelling at me that it was not safe. This caught me by surprise due to me loving the house the first 2 times I had been in it. Later that day, my boyfriend and I came back and the feeling was gone. I chalked it up to it being a new environment. While moving into the new home from our apartment, we were transporting everything in boxes. When I was carrying boxes into the house, my boyfriend was in the bathroom on the opposite side of the house. When I got to the front door, it was locked. I attempted for several minutes to open that door, but it was in fact locked. I went back to my car for my keys and came back only to find the door was now unlocked on its own. I called out to my boyfriend and he was still in the bathroom, saying that he had no clue what had happened. The first few nights in the house were a little rough for me, having grown up in a haunted house in the past. I pretty much slept through the eeriness, but my boyfriend would continuously have nightmares for a week or two. Every night he'd wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and hear someone walking around in the room next to ours. The bathroom door also locks itself, and we have to use credit cards to break in. On more than one occasion, I have entered the kitchen just to witness a shadow figure run out the opposite door. We have one door that leads to the dining room and the opposite side of the kitchen, a door that leads to the hall for our bedrooms. Whichever door I enter, there is always a shadow figure running out the other. There have also been a small shadow figures that run up to my feet. I mistake them for my cats, but I found my cats asleep in the living room. My boyfriend came home one day from work and told me that he and some of the guys we work with were talking about childhood experiences. In this moment, my boyfriend confided in me about hauntings from his childhood, such as seeing a mimic and not knowing what it was. My boyfriend grew up living with his grandma, and his grandma's home had been in the family since she was a child, a homestead that the entire family had grown up on. Hauntings his grandma and her brother refused to speak of have occurred. My boyfriend had woken up on nights to go to the bathroom, and he was walking through the house to see himself standing in the kitchen. The not him had its back turned, and my boyfriend just acknowledged it as, "That's weird. What am I doing?" And then having that thought, he went back to the room and went back to sleep. There are also occasions in which he'd be in the living room and witness his grandmother walking in the kitchen. The first time it happened, he asked what she was doing out of bed so late. His grandmother replied to him from her bedroom, "Son, who are you talking to?" After that, my boyfriend went to his room and locked the door before laying in bed until he fell asleep. After confiding this information to me, I have now been experiencing what I can only assume is a mimic. We will be sitting in the living room together on the couch. When I turn to speak to him, I will see another form of him. It'll be standing in the bedroom at the end of the hallway. The first time I noticed it, I had thought someone had broken in through the window, so I went and slammed the door fully open and nothing was there. Since that occurred, I try my best to ignore it, especially when I'm home alone and can hear it moving in the other rooms. So this one definitely feels like maybe a family-attached mimic, which is a situation they can and do bounce around. My question, so what I think maybe him or his family somehow got rid of this mimic. Maybe they meant to, maybe they didn't, he just didn't tell you about it. But he didn't banish it properly and it kind of attached to him and has jumped to you. That's what's happened throughout my family with mine. So what I'm thinking is a cord cutting ritual would work for you because that's what worked for me. So here's the order of things that you do. You do a cleansing of your whole house, of yourself. Then you do a banishment. Then you do a cord cutting ritual. Then you do a banishment again, and then you do another cleansing. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of energy, and you need to keep up with cleansings after that and keep an eye out for anything else that could be happening. Mimics attract other things. So, and the reason we do it in that order is you cleanse your space already. You want to start with a clean space. You banish anything else that's in there, and then you cord cut this thing from you. But once you do that, it's still in your space waiting to reattach. Sorry, my cat's meowing. I don't know what she's doing. So you need to banish it again, and then you cleanse one final time. If you don't do that second banishment, that's how the popcorn effect of sticking to people happens, and you don't want that. So try all of that. Let me know how it goes, because that does sound very mimic-esque. All right, next story. So I almost followed a mimic. About 6 months ago, I was just sleeping, and at the time I shared a room with my 2 other siblings. We had a triple bunk bed, and I slept at the bottom. Anyways, I'm sleeping alone in the room that night since my sister fell asleep on the couch and my brother was sleeping with my mom. I'm completely alone. I remember very vividly waking up to someone standing next to me where I was sleeping. It sounded like my sister and brother waking me up, saying, "Please get up. Get up, Mom needs you. Go to Mom's room." I was half asleep, so I just told them to shut up, thinking it was my siblings. It sounded like them. They just keep telling me that, and they started to sound more and more aggressive, so I decided to get up. Well, I tried to. I opened my eyes all the way and saw a shadow in the corner of my eye, which I thought was weird because I thought I would see my 2 siblings. Anyway, I get up and get my body locked. I was paralyzed. It wasn't like normal sleep paralysis. I didn't hallucinate. I didn't feel pressure. I was just simply not able to move. And then I passed out. The next morning, I woke up and instantly asked my siblings if they were playing a joke on me or if our mom actually did. But no. After that encounter, I started wearing a cross and slept with a Bible next to me because I still don't know what that was, and I'm still scared to this day. Luckily, we just moved out of the apartment, but so many more scary paranormal things have happened. Thank you for reading. I love your videos, and yes, you can disclose all this information if you want. That is creepy. I don't necessarily know if that was a mimic. That just seems more of just like a routine haunting and like something using mimic tactics, but that doesn't make it any less creepy. Alright, next story. November of 2024, my fiancé and I got kicked out of our shelter we were staying at, and our friends invited us to stay at their house. They had just moved into this house, and as soon as we moved in, weird things started to happen. First, it would be random knocks when no one would be at our door, or things would go flying across the room. The energy in the house would constantly shift, and then one night my fiancé was out with his crew, and I stayed behind. 20 minutes after they left, I would hear knocking and rattling. It sounded like my fiancé. He was demanding I let him in. I called his phone, and he was at a bowling alley. Another time this happened, he was sleeping right next to me. We moved out a few weeks ago, and I fear that it had followed me. I don't know how to get rid of it. So, kind of like what I said with the last one, you could go ahead and do the cord cutting, like row of events, but I would recommend cleansings and banishments, always trying those first. Try the easy stuff first that takes less energy, because it might just be something that's not as bad as a mimic. So, try that. Let me know. If it doesn't work, do the series of events. This all started in 2023 when I was in 9th grade. It was around midnight and on a school night, and I was trying to fall asleep. Slowly drifting away, I feel something light scrape my back. I jump back and look behind me to see nothing. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, so I closed my eyes and ended up falling asleep. I wake up to a voice, it wasn't male or female, screaming, "Get out." I don't know how long it was since I felt the scraping on my back, but it was still dark outside. My room was dark too. I laid with my eyes wide open while I tried to process what I heard. I never went back to sleep that night and ended up getting ready for school once my alarm went off. A few days later, my speech teacher assigned a podcast assignment for us to do. I was with my best friend, I'll call her Kara. We decided to do it on a paranormal experience. This class was during 7th period, so most of the students had left. We went into an empty classroom and started to record our podcast. I didn't tell Kara about what happened to me until then. She joked about saying, "If something is with her, make a sign." We laughed at it, but the lights started to flicker and even turned completely off for a split second. During this time, I didn't believe in the supernatural, so I was just saying how much of a coincidence it was. Nothing happened for months after that. My next encounter with it was around September or October of 2024. Kara was at my house so I could help her study for a book report we had coming up. We got home from school around 12 because we weren't doing anything, and Kara really needed to pass this assignment. Before we started studying, I told Kara to meet me in the upstairs room to help look for a whiteboard. My house isn't a complete two-story. There are stairs by the garage that lead up to a door with one room. To the left of the door was a bathroom and a closet. I left my bedroom to use the bathroom and went to my parents' bathroom because Kara was in mine. While I'm using the bathroom, Kara texts me asking if I'm upstairs. I tell her no, that I've been in my parents' bathroom the whole time. I hear Kara coming down the stairs, so I finish up and meet her at the bottom of the stairs. Kara walked upstairs and was standing in front of the door. As I recall, it was already open. She called out my name and heard a sound coming from the bathroom. Kara described it as a in a really soft voice. Then she goes, "Where are you?" And she heard the same again. That's when she opened the door and looked into the bathroom, expecting me to be in there. She saw nothing, and that's when she texted me. She full-on bolted down the stairs when I told her I wasn't there. The next day, Kara's back at my house, and it's still around 12. Again, we weren't doing anything at school, so I took her to my house. Kara went into my room to play with my cats and draw on the whiteboard we bought the night before. We were too scared to go back upstairs to look for one. I was recovering from a cold and my throat hurt, so I slid down the couch in my living room. After around 12 minutes, I heard Kara call my name out from the room. Since my throat was sore, I texted her asking what she wanted, and Kara was confused and said she didn't say anything. I was freaked out, so I walked into my room to talk to her. Kara tells me that she heard me yell her name, but when she responded, there was no answer. I never heard Kara respond to my voice. We both heard a voice that sounded like the other call our names. A few weeks later, I am in the kitchen making dinner, and I was standing with my back to the fridge. When I turn around, I see an old woman dressed in all white with long white hair peeking her head out of the hallway. I didn't know how to react, so I just stood there looking at her wide-eyed. My eyes got dry, so I blinked and she was gone. A few minutes later, I need something out of the fridge, so I grabbed it. As I turn around, I see her again, this time on the opposite side where I first saw her. I didn't react again and just watched as she turned and walked into the living room. I'm pretty close with my cousin, so I was telling her and Kara about what I witnessed. Then I realized the lady was my aunt that had passed away in September of 21. After I saw her, I started having weird and vivid dreams of my aunt. They were always the same thing. I'm in the process of writing a book that is based loosely on my life. Some parts are fiction, some are what I experienced. My aunt tells me to focus on writing the first time I ever dreamt about her. The second time she told me that the things that happen in my book will come true if I'm not careful. Ever since the second dream, nothing has happened. The most recent encounter was February 15th of 2025. Me, my mom, and my sister got back from my brother's house. It wasn't too late, maybe around 8 p.m. Us three were the only people in the house, and I needed help cleaning up the kitchen, so I walked over to my mom's room. I saw her shadow in my room and followed it inside. I was standing in the doorway when I saw her shadow walk around my bed and into the bathroom. The door and the bathroom light were both turned off, so I was curious as to why she went to the bathroom without turning on the light. I walked over to the edge of the closet to her bathroom and said, "Mama?" Coming from her closet and her bathroom, I heard a faint, and I knew something was off because I had never heard my mom respond to something like that. She either says yeah or yes. I walked over to her bathroom and turned on the light only to see no one. I feel my body get cold and I get shivers all down my spine and body. I once read it's best not to act scared when encountering a spirit, so I walked out of the bathroom calmly. My sister was in the room and I looked at her and I said, "Where's Mama?" She looked at me with a confused face and says, "She went outside to take the trash out." I hear from the front door my mom walk inside. I asked her how long she had been gone, and she told me she went outside right after we got home. I've heard stories of mimics, so I don't know what's in my house. I feel like the encounters get more vivid each time it happens. If you have any advice on what I should do, please tell me. I feel like I'm going insane since my mom won't believe me. Yeah, that sounds like a mimic to me, and it's kind of like what I told you guys, of it exponentially getting worse, and like the features and the voices and stuff getting better. The vividness of it all. Yeah, so that is time for you to do that sequence of events, for sure. Anyways, I guess we will wrap the video here. This one was rather long. I love talking about mimics. But if you guys have any experiences you would like to share with me, mimic or not, from anywhere in the world, please let me know so I can read it. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow.